it's Shana. Welcome to Controlled Chaos, the podcast where we dive into the world of recovery, sharing stories of experience, strength, and hope from those who have been there and made it through. No matter where you are in your battle with addiction, alcoholism, or mental health struggles, know that there is a way out. Throughout my sobriety journey, I have often felt alone and doubted my ability to even stay sober. Starting this podcast in my room just 2 months ago, I had a dream of reaching people just like me, those who felt hopeless. As a woman in recovery, I began with 0 followers, but with a dream of offering hope to even just one person. The mission of this podcast is to connect, inspire, and provide hope to those feeling lost or struggling with addiction. Remember, the opposite of addiction and isolation is sobriety and connection. Let's come together through the Controlled Chaos podcast and support each other on the journey to healing and growth. Hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and let's build a community of support and understanding. Love you mucho. Welcome to Controlled Chaos. I am your host, Shana, and this is my friend Meredith, which I'm so excited to have on. Can you go ahead and tell us just a little bit about yourself for those who don't know who you are?
Yes. So those who don't know who I am, my name is Meredith White. It's actually Lily4203 on TikTok and Meredith White on Facebook. So, people know me a little bit different ways. I am 49 years old. I have over my sobriety date is 11/1/2020. So I'm over 3.5 years now. I'm already actually planning my 4-year celebration. Let's just be mindful of that. Because I'm going to make it. And I'll also be 50. So, and it's all in the same week. So it's celebration, I was addicted to everything. I was raised in a small. Do you want me to kind of go there, or
yeah,
I'll just flow with it? Okay, so I was raised in a very small town in South Carolina, and my two parents. It was Gaffney, South Carolina, very small town. My family was real well known in the community. My grandmother played the piano in the church, and my dad was a local insurance agent. I had everything I wanted. I was, some could call spoiled. I went to private school. I did all the stuff. I did the ballet, the tap, I wanted for nothing. And as far as I knew, life was really great. I got a little brother. Well, he's 18 months younger. He was like my favorite toy to play with, and I took him everywhere. And everything was great. So I was about 8, and my family all of a sudden my mom said, we're getting a divorce. About that time I found out my dad had a whole nother family living next to us in the subdivision next to us. Yeah. So they divorced, and it was real ugly. Just hateful all the time. And then my mom got shot, and my dad went to jail for shooting my mother. She didn't die. But he got arrested for shooting her. He, as far as I know, did it. I wasn't there, but she let him out. She dropped charges so that we could have a dad. So that kind of happened.
Wait a minute. Can we go back a second? Because I feel like you just kind of skated over that. Like, my mom got shot, and then maybe it was my dad. So did your mom ever talk to you about it? Do you know what happened?
Well, here's the deal. I kind of remember what I remember in my head. I was visiting my dad. We were at my grandmother's. And then my dad left out the night before, and he had a big truck, and I remember the sound of his tires. He had changed clothes. That is a young child I remember, but I wasn't that young. I was 8.5 or 9. So I knew when my dad changed clothes, and I knew what his truck sounded like. So, when he tried to say he didn't do it over the years, that memory is stuck in my head. And then I kind of went back and I read did my own research. I got to read the police reports and whatnot. Like I said, I wasn't there. It has caused a lot of trauma for my mother. Of course, she was raised, she was always scared. She was never happy. I don't ever remember her being happy again. After that time, I don't ever remember as a child really laughing again after that. I don't remember because we lived with my mom, and I just don't remember being happy. as a kid after that. Like, and shortly thereafter is when I started stealing, which was my first addiction. And I started stealing at 8. And I did it at first. I had this great idea that I was going to start stealing and get in trouble, and my parents were going to have to work together, and they were going to get back together. Well, it failed miserably. It didn't work out, and I had to go put all the stuff back, and I was real embarrassed. But I really liked the rush of it because I did get away with all of it,
Yeah.
and I liked that feeling, and so I didn't stop. And it was and it was more and more and more, and I just was addicted to that rush. And now that I'm sober, I recognize that.
Right.
I started drinking at 11 in my grandmother's basement with 2 little boys who they were like, "Hey, we're gonna steal some of my parents' alcohol. You want to try it?" And I was like, "Yes." So first time got trash smashed and couldn't walk up the stairs of my grandmother's. I don't know how I got away with it, but I did. And I think they were probably still drinking too at the time, and that's probably how I got away with it. But I had arrived, and I knew that I liked that feeling that I didn't know I didn't have to feel. It was a good time. They had fun, we had fun, we all had fun. That's what I knew. That's like kind of set the tone for my drinking for a while. And I was a kid. I was 11 years old. You know what I mean? My kid can't even take his trash out to the side of the road. You know what I mean? Like at 15. So like,
Right.
it's kind of put some things in perspective now, like just how young I really was. My stepbrother started molesting me. This is one of the stepbrothers that I got, with the whole new family. And so he started molesting me about 11 and a half, and got me pregnant about 12 and a half. So I had an abortion, and it was back in the time where abortion was really not, it was not like, it's not a normal period. Not what was it? I'm trying to say something different.
It just wasn't really like talked about or known.
No,
much.
yeah, it wasn't that, but that's what I was trying to tell you, is all the protesters were out in full force. And so I don't remember anything about the procedure. I don't remember anything about the place, but I remember fighting these grown adults trying to get into the door of this place to go have this procedure done. You know what I mean? And I never forgot the signs ever that they had on those signs. I never forgot the dead babies and forceps that I saw, attached to these signs. And that was the trauma, but nothing happened to him. He was 17, almost 18 years old. Nothing happened to him. I got sent away because of marijuana. They sent me away. So anyway, in rehab, I learned about all kinds of fun new drugs. I couldn't wait to get out. And those kids were cool. Let me tell you, like, in my eyes, those were some cool kids, like they weren't listening to their parents. Like they got away with it, like whatever. So I got out of there, which actually ended up being a trick. I had to end up going to another place where they ended up it was called Chestnut Hill. It was like behavior teenagers or something. So I don't remember this place except for I remember going on walks. Like I remember going walks around the building with like our little quad and seeing all these kids like at their windows, like looking at me, and I'm looking at them. We're trying to like look at each other, like, because you're locked up. And they ended up getting shut down for doing experimental medication, or like trying different experimental medication, like psychiatric medicine. And
Right.
So they had me on all kinds of psychiatric drugs, like way early, from like an early age. I thought there was something wrong with me. And I couldn't figure out what it was. And so anyway, I got out of there. I think I went back, got it. My mom finally got me out. And I went back to school. Like, this is okay. I'm back. Enough time has happened. It's not happened to anybody. Everybody pretends like it never happened. So I go back to school and try to pretend to be a normal kid. So I'm doing pretty good. Like I'm in 7th grade. I'm in junior high, and I had some pretty good friends. I was doing the good thing or whatever, or as best as I knew how to, or trying to be. I made a for cheerleading. I was in the band and all the kind of stuff. I didn't really care too much for going to school but my mom made me. And they had this thing that you had to attend so many days or you get in trouble. And I was terrified of the truant officer coming to visit me. And until I met him in the cheerleading squad. So that was all great. And I'd not done too many games before I got hooked up with the cheerleaders, and we were behind, and I got caught with some marijuana in school, like my second time smoking it. Like I got caught holding it. Couldn't have told you how to buy the stuff. Couldn't have told you anything about it. But anyway, I got caught holding it. So all of a sudden I became I got suspended. I got kicked off cheerleading. So all of a sudden I was the kid nobody's parent wanted them to play with, so I was kind of screwed where, you know what I mean? Like, there we go. Like I'm in trouble. So I had to find some friends, some people to hang out with somewhere. So I found the people who expected the very least out of me, and and it was the bad kids that were getting in trouble. They didn't care what I was doing. I thought it was great. Like, so I started hanging out with them, and this brings me to I met a 24-year-old boyfriend who lived on this street behind me. Now this is where it goes downhill quickly. It was actually one of my best friend's uncle, and he was really super cool in my eyes as well. There was always a man involved some kind of way throughout my life. It's always been a man, whether it's been a traumatic man, and most of them were because of the choices I made. But anywho, so he introduces me to cocaine for the first time. And I thought that was even better than alcohol, man. Like, I was like, this is really good. And I had never seen it before, but he was like, here, try this. And I was like, I had seen it at the Just Say No, like the DARE, the little things that they had don't do drugs. And by that point, I really was like, why not? So I did, and I thought it was great too. And like I said, and I just started with LSD and going to Grateful Dead shows, and he was a bartender. Somehow or another, I was sneaking out, going to this bar. I remember sitting at the bar. I don't know how I got away with it. My mom would have killed me, but I was sitting at the bar. And people would be at this bar, like, and their nose would they'd be sitting at the bar and their nose would be bleeding. But I can remember being a 16-year-old young girl, like, and that's the environment that I was in, and I thought it was awesome. Like, I was living the high level. Look, I didn't care nothing else about those junior high girls. I cared nothing else how mean they were to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I was hanging out with way cooler kids. So, that went pretty good. I thought in my eyes until I overdosed for the first time, and I overdosed on cocaine, and they had to pump my stomach, and that was real bad. That was a real bad experience. I don't know if you've ever had your stomach pumped, but it's a really terrible experience. Trouble. So after that, I got sent to the girls' home. Or maybe it was before. I don't know. Anyway, I ended up at the girls' home in this town called Greenville, South Carolina, about 30 minutes from where I was from. So I really couldn't, I was still young. We didn't have cell phones really around. So I couldn't call anybody come get me, because now these days today, I'd have never been at that girl's home. You know what I mean? Like, I did it quick. And so I went to the girls' home, and they told me that I had to go. It was a beautiful, beautiful house, right? Well, the women, two women who ran it were no nonsense. Like, they were not about to put up with my nonsense until I figured out how to manipulate them into making them think everything was going beautiful and wonderful, and knowing I was going to run away the day I turned 17. I had it all planned to be before the day I got there. And so they made me go to school, and you don't talk about being uncool. Try riding the bus in high school to high school, and you live in the girls' home. But I found the cool kids in the high school. Like, I made friends pretty quickly, and I ended up hooking up with some pretty cool kids, and they would shimmy us up, me and my roommate, up beers up the side of the road, up the side of the house and stuff. Like, they were like, the addiction was always there. It was never like all the way sober. Oh, and we were huffing butane at the time. That was a biggie for a long time. which, like just kills your brain cells. And I'm all over the place. So I try and stay the best I can, but like that kind of set the tone for how I want, my drugs progressed. And, so yeah, I ended up running away because I'm manipulative, and they actually ended up helping me run away by helping me put my bags onto the school bus. I told them that it was I had a Spanish, like some type of Spanish project, and I had to bring lots of costumes, and so they helped me run away. And so yeah, so I ended up at a girlfriend's house and with her and her dad, and so we got in trouble. So I ended up back at my dad's, back to the place where it all, kind of all started. But I'm trying to, but my stepbrother's gone at this point. Yeah. So I ended up back at my dad's. Okay. So I meet my soon to be, and my soon husband. So my brother was living with my younger brother was living with a family because he wasn't doing too good behavior wise, and my dad had actually said he was doing. So anyway, they had this brother who was a youth group leader, that I thought was fabulous. And then when I found out that he sold marijuana, he was my instant soulmate. And so I'm like, I start dating him, and then something terrible happens. I'm at the gas station and I got raped at gunpoint. A guy got in my car, came up to my passenger side, and I was still real naive at this time. And he opened the door, and by that time, it was old. You couldn't press the lights down or whatever. And so he was in my car, and next thing I knew, I had a gun at my head. And he sent me behind the local college to rape me. And when he got out of the car, I never forgot him. I forgot kind of his face, part of his face, but I never forgot his earring, never forgot his voice. And he said, "I'm scared." And I said, "You should be." So, like, somehow or another, I had enough sense, collected the DNA, went straight to the police department, dropped that car off, told them to take me to the hospital. I'd been raped, and did a rape kit, and told them to keep my car, never want to see it again. So it was a real big deal. That was real bad. That, I didn't know what to do. Like, the guy I was going to marry, he was devastated. I was devastated. I couldn't leave my house, couldn't leave my home for months until he decided, and then he proposed to me. So it's time to leave my house again. It's like, okay, well, it's time to go. It's time to go elope to Jamaica. Got a great trip to Jamaica out of it. and party, had a wonderful time. You know what I mean? Stayed married to him for about a year, until I left with the guy that our plug for marijuana. I decided to leave with him because, well, he was bigger and better, and he was giving me cocaine all of a sudden. Right. Yeah, back to that love, and that was the thing, that cocaine always called me back, and it took me. That was the first thing that took me. That was the first thing that had a hold of me, to where, like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I wanted more, and I would have done anything I could, at that point. I mean, I lost a great marriage. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was a good guy. It wasn't, what was supposed to happen at the time, but whatever. And then I meet my father, my oldest daughter. I met her father. He was another, and we met. The day we met, we, like, instantly hooked up, started basically living together. I was like, too bad. We were like instantly in love, young love. Like, that was my first, like, I mean, my husband was a lot older than me. This was somebody my age. It was kind of like a road dog, like, we were Bonnie and Clyde. We got in, if he had a bad idea, like, I had an even better way to do it. Like, oh no, we need to do it like this, but we're definitely going to do it. Right. It was really, we were really bad for each other because we got in so much trouble, and we did anyway. So we ended up not together, obviously. But I had my daughter, my beautiful daughter, and I had all these plans. My life was going to be good. Everything was going to work out. And no, yes. I got ahead of myself. So, anywho, I got introduced to crack cocaine, and any thoughts of being a good mom went out the door the first time I tried it. Like, and there is no being a good mom. Like, I was instantly like, and I knew I was hooked, and I went from, at the time when I had my own place, like my own place, a car. It was just me and her. We were doing the thing, I was a really good mom. I started, and I was doing the right thing, and then instantly I became a bad mom. Not like a bad mom, and I own that. Like, I know this, but I also know it wasn't the drug. It wasn't me. It was the drugs, because now I am a good mom and I'm sober. So, like, we'll just kind of scoot around. So, I ended up losing her. So, her dad ended up taking her to another state, and I ended up kind of losing my mind a little bit. At the time, I thought she was in my custody because she was like actually physically, like, she was mine. I brought her home, like she came out of my vagina and everything. Like, I thought she was mine. They didn't tell me that when I left the hospital, that I had to, get somebody to sign a piece of paper. So anyway, he went pick her up from daycare, and whoever's actual physical custody she was in at that time, this is 24 years ago, was she was baby she was. So I don't know if it was short that way, but it did then. I kind of lost my mind. I ended up moving to a moving way and working for one of some of his family's check cashing place, or a friend of the family. Well, me and a golf pro one night thought it'd be a good idea to rob them and rob him and take the whole safe and use my alarm code. So when the guy was like, I want my money, and I was like, I want my kid, find out, you tell me where my kid is, or find out, and I'll let you, and then you go get your money back. I was kind of bluffing, but then by that time I really wanted to give it back. But then the guy that I was with me, that I did it with, he was like, oh no, we're not giving it back. So we took the whole safe, and we did get into it. So that leads to another set of trouble. I told told them that they would. I told the authorities. I told everybody, like, when I got finished spending it, I would come turn myself in. So I proceeded to go and spend $18,000 on drugs. And when I finally got done, I went and turned myself in. It was a rocky. I don't know how I made it out, but gratefully I did. I went and turned myself in, and I was looking at 25 years. I know that was a pretty expensive spree, like 25 years hit me hard. And I really thought that's what I was going to get. But somehow or another, the solicitor liked me. And instead of safe cracking, he was like, receiving stolen goods. I don't know how, since I stole those goods, but let's leave it at that. So, during all this time, I forgot to say, I did find at 19 with my daughter's father, a crooked doctor that started prescribing me pills. Started my first script of opiates and Xanax. I don't remember. I can't think of the name right now. What you call them. Anyway, so I started, and I was keeping them and taking them all, like, at very young. Anyway, and just know that I kept that doctor for until he lost his license. I always had a crooked doctor, and he was one of those, you want to talk about, girl, we talking about in the country, in the cut doctor that's got the trailer. It's got the trailer pharmacy in the back. Okay, so he's slinging pills. This is the Oxy days. This is the Oxy days. They're writing them. Everybody is getting them. All my friends are not. Once again, so I was on those. They started me off on those a little bit later. But anyway, I started doing, so I went and turned myself in. They gave me probation somehow out of receiving stolen goods. 5 years probation. I think I probably made it about twice to go report out of the first 3 years. So they didn't really like that too much. So when they finally found me, they gave me $100,000 bond and said that they were not wasting any of the taxpayers' money, and I was not getting it. And they did not think my parents liked me that much by that point. So, and they were right. So I did a year in prison. First of all, when I went, they were like 2 years. I thought they were going to say rehab. They said State Department of Corrections, and just suspended to one. I was like, oh. And plus probation. They were going to make me do that probation. Yes, they did not play with me. They were done.
So like probation didn't go away when you had to go to prison?
No, I still had 5 years probation. They weren't playing with me. They were done. So I get about that next morning, it's time to get on this bus. He's shackled and handcuffed with 2 women with pump shotguns, right? And they're like, okay, y'all ready for this? And I was like, yeah, nope. They're like, you're not gonna die, but you're going to hell. And I was like, so I cried the whole way there, man, scared to death. And then I quit crying real quick when they saw the prison, because they were like, you better suck them tears up. And I was like, so, and then they said, welcome to hell, ladies. They were right. The first place I went there was somewhere I couldn't even hardly talk to my family. It was a place, it was 3 tiers. It was where they put you, when you all first get there, until they find out whether you're medically clear, whether you have AIDS, tuberculosis, no matter what. So you don't know who you're all in there together, so you don't know what all you're sharing. Plus, you don't know what this person's done next to you. But I happened to get real lucky and had 2 good roommates, if you could call it that, and like I was lucky. So those days were hell. Our day ended at 3:00 in the afternoon, and they woke us up at 4 in the morning to go to breakfast. Yeah, so it was pretty rough. But so then I got to prison.
Do you still talk to the people, like, I don't want to say your friends, but the people who you like met and were with in prison? Do you still talk to them?
Not one. Not one person that I talked to that are your buddies and that you're gonna love for life. I didn't personally, but then again, like I also moved and lost everything so many more times after prison that
Right.
like I could have never kept up with anybody. And by the time I thought about like maybe on Facebook or anything, it was probably best if I just didn't. I would say the only person that I do remember is Susan Smith, who I went to prison with. I don't know if you know her story, but she drowned her 2 little boys. It was a big nationwide thing, and but I do remember her. And if you didn't know what she did, like you'd have really liked her. But I didn't have any problems in prison. And when you're my size in prison, people don't pick on you because you get punked out. Like if you pick on somebody my size, I'm 4'10", so if you pick on somebody my size, like you get you don't want to be that person. They called me Clifford the Big Red Dog. I don't know why. I guess because I was the smallest person in the quad, with the biggest attitude. No, I didn't have the biggest attitude. I just had a lot of personality, and sometimes that was good, sometimes that was bad. I pretty much, okay, so first night I was in prison, I was so glad to be there. My next door neighbor was being so nice to me. She said, you want to come smoke in my room? I was like, sure. So first night I'm there, I got sent to jail in jail. So I got out the next day by some sheer luck. And the assistant warden got me. And she said, Miss White, there will be no more chances for you in my prison. If you ever get in trouble again, she said, you will come see me personally. And I was like, yes, ma'am. So I was like a model prisoner. And I'd see her all over the yard. And I'd be, I'm going to church. I'm going to school. And everything. She'd finally invite you, like, okay, Miss White. Okay, Miss White. Okay, Miss White. So it was a horrible experience being like away from putting my family through that again, my kids. I had my somehow or another. I meant to tell you. I told you I'm back and forth. I'm so ADD. So I missed a whole rehab and actually having my youngest daughter. I was thinking that was after prison, but it was not. She was younger. She was 2 when I went to prison.
This is your
I had
second
gone-
daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm real bad with dates and collaborating them. I can't get any of that right in my head yet. I don't know if
too.
you're
About it.
Okay.
I did the same thing. I'm like, wait, what?
yeah.
Give
I
me
mean,
a kid, a whole baby daddy.
right. Forget, yeah. Oops. So yeah, I went to this faith-based Christian rehab. I really wanted to get my stuff, get it back together again. And so when I got out, I met a counselor at the rehab, right? So I'm at the women's facility calling the counselor up at the women's facility, and I ended up in day before rehab graduation. He picks me up in a taxi, and we go off to live life together. So, he was actually going to be a preacher as well, and he ended up being horrible. So I ended up leaving him and hooking up with my best friend at the time. And him and his family decided they want to be there for me to have the baby and blah 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 blah. And at that time, it seemed kind of like stable and like a good idea. And because I didn't want to be by myself, and whatever it worked. I thought that was a good idea. So it wasn't. But when I went to prison, his mother took my youngest, and my mom had my oldest. And I did that because I didn't want my mom to have both kids. Like I didn't want her to have it all on her, so there I lost my second child. I actually got the paperwork to sign my daughter over for adoption the day I got to prison. And they served me with the paperwork. And I wanted my kids to have the best life. I had every intention on being a good mom. I meant to tell you also, at 19, I was a teacher's assistant. The first year I worked as a media assistant and a substitute. The second year I was a kindergarten assistant. They wanted me full time. I loved working in the school system. I was really good with kids. I loved it.
I could see that. I can see that even now. I watch your stuff with I think it's your grandson, and the stuff you teach him and the stuff. I'm honestly not surprised that that's something you were good at. That actually, I could see that. I was thinking that the other day, dang, she's really good with him.
Yeah, I love it, and I love kids, and I love to play, and I relate to them real well, and I'm so little they aren't scared of me. So, and so I really loved it, and I loved my time at school, but I let cocaine take me, but I still teach kids. I just teach them a little bit, some different stuff, and I can't really just do it in the school system. But that doesn't mean I can't go back in there and share my story with them, and teach them, not teach them, but maybe just show them. Show the lead by example, live it differently. So it definitely was a great time in my life. My mom is a retired school teacher. I lost train of thought so anyway, yeah, so we're in prison, getting out of prison. I get out of prison. I stay sober for 18 months. While I was in prison, I signed up to do this Women's Recovery Academy. It was 6 months. Made your time go by super fast, and I think you got out 2 weeks earlier. I didn't give a damn. I was ready to get out. I learned a lot of stuff there. I left, and I dealt with a lot of stuff. The stuff that I knew how to, there that I could. So, and I left it there. I left a lot there. So a lot of trauma there. So I got out and did meetings for a little while. I wanted to do really good, and I had every good intention of being the best mom possible, and doing all these things for my kids and being there. And I did for a while, but Josh, a real good friend dropped by with some free shit. So I was back to the races again, and this time it got way worse, way worse. I started doing heroin with it, meth, everything. All this time, also, I've got I'm in and out of jail. Like after when I started back, it was because of the shame, the guilt, the remorse, the hating yourself for doing all that and messing up twice. And here I go again. I'm screwing up another kid. You know, like these kids are never going to get it.
About that for a second, because I think a lot of people think that like once something's out of your system, you should be fine, right? Like once
Right.
you're not drinking, once you're not using, that person should be fine. And what I just heard you say is I was sober for 18 months and somebody came over and there went my life for how many more years, right? So I think that's something that a lot of people miss, right? Is that
And it doesn't matter how many good intentions you have. Those good
Right.
intentions.
a mental obsession there that doesn't go away just because it's not in your system. Like just because you get sober doesn't mean that you're going to stay sober. You have to like do so much more work than that to continue to have a life
Yeah.
without substances, right?
And it's not just putting the substances. You can put the you can put the substances down all day long. I knew how to put the substances down. I didn't know how to keep them down. I didn't do the work. I didn't do the work to figure out why I was using them in the first place. I didn't do the work to figure out, well, maybe, you know, like I didn't have the tools, you know, I did, but I didn't apply them ever, you know, like I didn't really have the tools I have now today. The tools, let me change that. I had tools, but I don't have the tools I have today and the tools that I utilize.
Yeah, there's also like a certain amount of like there was a lot of things that worked for me, right? But until I got all of these things that fell together in the right place in the right time, all the right tools mixing together, right? Until all of it came together, I couldn't stay sober.
I couldn't stay sober either, you know, but it wasn't really that. It was me being willing to do whatever it took to stay sober. Had they told me, somebody with more experience, I don't know who they had, somebody said, hey, I'd like you to try and do some cartwheels backwards down this street right here, you know, and it keeps me sober, but so it might keep you sober. Guess what? I would have tried that because I was willing to go to any lengths. I went to any lengths to get high, so I went to any lengths to recover, and that stuck in my head. You go to any lengths to get your dope, go to any lengths to get your recovery, and I did, and I did, and I put just as much effort into it as I put into getting high. And you know what? And I was ready, but I had to be to that point, you know, like I was ready a lot of times. I was real ready a lot of times, but I wasn't ready to put the hard work into it. You know, I was real ready many times to be sober in my life than I thought. But you know what? I wasn't ready to do what was necessary to stay sober. I wasn't ready to move away from all those people. I wasn't ready to change my number. I wasn't ready to change my circles. I wasn't ready to start, you know, putting all positive thoughts in my head. I wasn't ready to start even listening to different music or listening, you know, you name it. Like I had to do it because if tonight would be to die. Like, and I was at that point where I was done. Like, if I had not gotten help, like I would have died because I was ready to die and I was ready to do it myself, and I was ready and I was finished and I'm either gonna live or I'm gonna die. Right. You know, like I need help right now because if I go any further, I'm gonna die. And I wasn't at rock bottom. Let me mind you too. I wasn't at rock bottom. I had been way worse off when I actually got sober. I had
a lot too, and that was true for me too. Like the last time I drank was not by any means the worst time I had ever had in my life drinking. It was just that I wanted it so bad, and it finally got to a point where it was like, okay, it's time and I'm ready. But like I had been way worse off before. So it's weird that that's how it happens, right? Eventually it's like, I'm tired. I'm just tired.
Beat down. beat down, done, finished. I'm finished hurting. I'm finished hurting everybody. I'm finished hating myself. I'm finished feeling the way I feel because I feel it and I'm tired of it. Absolutely exhausted. And
Okay, so you had the 18 months sober, you fell off, started with heroin.
Yeah, I was doing everything. So 18 months. Okay, so I was out and about running the streets real bad. Obviously doing whatever I could for my next fix. And I found out I was pregnant, and I got raped in a hotel behind their stairs. I called the police. I told them, hey, there's got to be cameras, blah 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 blah. I got kicked out of the hotel and told never to come back for disturbing the peace. So, and because I looked like a junkie, and I wasn't even high at that moment, you know what I mean? But
Right.
because you could tell I'd been on the trail, I was tiny and rough and whatever. So I got continued getting really, really high. I found out I was pregnant. Didn't know that I was going to keep it, and went to church, and it was baby dedication week, and I decided to keep him. He was born premature. I did real good. Once again, I got sober to be able to be pregnant. Long story short, it didn't happen. I lost him when he was 2, but this time things are a little bit different. I was shooting everything, every pill you could imagine. I had a doctor, a real crooked doctor, that was giving me.
You said you lost your son at 2 years old?
He was maybe a little bit before 2.
Was that her?
Do I?
Was that because he was premature, or?
Oh, no, he didn't die. No, my mom was adopted. My mom adopted him. I'm sorry. So my mom adopted him when he was 2, and I pretty much lost the law. I mean, and by that point, I was so far gone. I was shooting any kind of pill my doctor would give me. I had this crooked doctor. I mean, it was craziness. My sugar daddy was the head doctor of mental health in Spartanburg, South Carolina, who was supposed to be helping me, but he wasn't. I ended up getting arrested with him for false prescriptions. He was calling them in, and that's why I got it was crazy. It was all over the news. It was in the 6 o'clock news. I had to go turn myself in on the news. I mean, just some crazy stuff. He ended up getting disbarred. So a lot of people disliked me, even though he was giving me the pills. It was a small town. A lot of people knew this man. He had a lot of friends, and they didn't like me. So a lot of people in the town didn't like me after that. Anyway, so I just then I started really shooting heroin bad. I was in this little town. My mom and the kids moved to Louisville, Kentucky. And I lost my will to live, even though they were still just up here. I could see that they were, just because they were 20 minutes away from me, didn't mean that they weren't around. You know what I mean? I thought that, oh my God, they were kind of my reason for looking sober, trying to keep it together a little bit or whatever. But when they moved up here, so anyway, one prison, one jail stay after another. It was a revolving door. I've got milk shots. You can see. I don't know what that did. I don't remember. I don't remember being there, but I'm like, wow, that looks real bad. I'm pretty sure I was high. So I couldn't tell you. Some of them, I don't even recall. And it was a revolving door, just jails, ODs. I found my best friend dead in my bed. I was homeless. I lived in the woods. I lived with rats. I lived with, my house when I had one was a trap, one thing after another. Constant chaos, girl.
Or did your best friend overdose?
They didn't ever really come out to say that. They said it was a heart attack, but I don't know. I guess we'll never know because they cremated him, but that was rough. I walked in. I had only been gone, we were roommates, and I had only been gone a short amount of time. And I came back, and he was dead, and there's nothing I could do. So I soon thereafter moved the heroin dealer in, who was a good buddy of mine from that I let get out of the federal penitentiary and come and live with my house, which was not real smart. But so it was just a scene. I had a really toxic relationship with my favorite ex. He'll always be my favorite ex. You know, I don't know why I say that, because like it was, and it's not even funny. It's just, I guess it's that trauma bond where you've been through so many life and death situations that you're only like, we can't help but love each other, like, as you know, like have love for each other always, you know. And he got sober, I got sober, just in two different places. I couldn't do it in South Carolina. I could, but a year before I quit everything. I quit doing dope, like a little bit here, a little bit there. I quit the heroin, I quit the pills, I quit the meth, I quit the crack. I quit all that on my own at different times. So I got some stuff back, but then I was getting ready to be evicted, and I said, Mom, I need to come up there. And I wanted to come to Louisville anyway, and my kids were here, and so she said yes. And I thought I was going to do real good, and I thought I was going to do great, and I did for about 2 weeks, because I mean that I was sneaking drinking a whole lot, and she didn't know, but I embarrassed myself. It was my son's soccer game, and I embarrassed myself and my family, and I tripped over a trash can in front of all the spectators at a soccer game. Well, the soccer coach just so happened to be in AA and saw it all go down, and rest is in the universe, man. And he got me into. He told me, he called me that night, gave me his experience, strength, and hope on my front porch. Told me who I needed to go. The counselor that saved his life, or helped him save his life. I called that counselor. He happened to live be like 20 minutes away, 15, 20 minutes away. I called every day for 2 weeks. I got in their program. It was COVID, and so here we are in the middle of COVID. So I ended up doing my rehab on Zoom about the same time I started TikTok. And so I was just like, TikTok, what's TikTok? So I kind of did it to I didn't know anybody in Louisville. I didn't know anybody but my family. And, I'd always kind of been a people person, certain times of the month anyway. Other times I never really liked it, it just mattered. It just depended. So I started doing TikTok, and it just kind of became a thing. Like, I got to have connections, and I saw somebody. His name is I'll never get him. Of course, I said it right now. And when I said don't, they call him Mike. He has a book, and I will get it. I will know by the end of the time I finish, because I know I think of it all the time. But him and his wife were on, and they were telling the world that they were crackheads, and I was like, man, that's so cool. I was like, I'm going to do that. I was like, okay, but and I'm sure my family was a little, like, you did what? So I started sharing my story, and more, and then I saw, as a matter of fact, Ashley Kaufman, and she told the world that she was a prostitute, and I was like, wow, some guts. Well, guess what? Me too, but I'm not to that capacity. But she, women, these people like paved the way for other people for me to start recovering out loud, and so I'm so grateful that I did, because it's been such an amazing experience. I've got to meet people like you and share my story, and a guy in the UK wrote a story about me, and and it's helped hold me accountable, and it's helped, give me support, and meet some of my favorite people in the world. Like some of my favorite people are literally through this phone right now. That I won't ever be, and some of
so
them
I will. I'm getting like kind of emotional, and I never get emotional on here, but you were like, whew, one of the first people that I followed when I was like starting to do this stuff. So hearing like all the trauma that you've been through and all of that kind of stuff, and like that you were just like at a ball game and not living your best life, right? And somebody came to you and was just like, hey, like, this is what you can have. Like, this is what it can be different, right?
I can
And
show
that
and
like holds everything for you.
and it's been a serious and he paved the way. And you know what? This man has died from stage 4 cancer. Like there's nothing like he's been really trying. And everybody that I touch, he has a hand in touching for many, many years. You know, had he not listened to what God told him to do. And I have a very, very I serve a very, very loving God. I'm not religious. I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm spiritual, more spiritual. I have a very loving God that just is, you know, I don't believe in heaven, hell, and brimstone and fire. I believe in my loving God that has sent angels my way to keep me alive. And that's one of them. You know, you're I'm sure so many people's angels, and you know, like you never know, like how many people that your life is touching just by being on that screen. You know what I mean? And just you're doing something I don't personally like to do. I don't like to sit and see my face and talk on camera. So you do a really amazing job. Like, and I'm super, super proud of you. Like,
Aw.
look at how
Well,
far
thank
look
you.
at us, girl. All sober shit.
Right? No, like when I first started like wanting to get into sober coaching and like talking to women and talking to people out loud, like I was always super, super shy without alcohol. And that's what I used to kind of like have that confidence. So it's kind of hilarious that this is like what I do now is like, and I just look at other people like you. I'm like, damn, like if she can talk about it, I can talk about it. And
Right.
like that's where it comes from, right?
But you're
it-
like really
it does.
good with like the ask. You're really good with asking questions and stuff. Like you're not natural with it, like to where. And I'd be stuck. I'd be like wanting to hear the gossip. Like, what, really? No way. You know, like I'd be way more not professional. I'd be like, so yeah, you're doing a fantastic job. And you know, one of the things I want to tell you know anybody who does listen is one thing that kept me sober is listening to this. Is I have these mantras, a few mantras in my head. One of them is every little bit helps, no matter what. Every little bit helps. You know that I of positivity. You know, in even sweeping when I don't want to sweep. Okay, well, every little bit helps. And if I just do this little bit, then it's going to help it look a little bit better. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to do a little bit more, you know? And sometimes it just helps you be at your best self, without having to say, you know, or give your best. You know what I mean? You can do a little bit more when you say, you know what, every little bit helps. You know, well, I don't want to put makeup on today and I look like crap, but so I'm going to put at least a little mascara on because every little bit helps. And you know, and every little bit, you know, and I use that so often. Like I don't want to do these. And at the time, I was like really big in AA, and I'm a little more all recovery, all past recovery now. I do use plant medicine now for harm reduction. I didn't until for the longest. I was straight. But I will let anybody know that I do not feel that complete abstinence. I feel like there are many different paths to recovery.
I do too.
I support every one of them. I feel like if you're living and you're recovering, hey, I'm proud of you. You know, I don't give a damn whether you're taking Suboxone. I don't care if you're doing 12 steps. I don't care if you're bouncing a ball 3 times a day on your head. You know what I mean? If as long as it's working for you and you're happy and you're you know flourishing and you're not lying to yourself and you're being the best version of yourself you can be every day, like who am I to judge you? You know, right. And I saw a lot of judgment in the 12 step. That brings me to one. I know we're wrapping up. That brings me to one more point. Like I kind of started Simply Sober on Facebook for people that for no judgment, because I saw a lot of the as much as I love AA, I do see a lot of the judgment in AA, and I don't feel like that's the only way to recover. And I'm a living proof. I know many other people that are living proof. So I love to hear those, you know, I love to hear celebrations of life. You know what I mean? Like these people that are just making it, you know, like one day at a time. And I don't care how they're doing it, you know, quit judging each other for how we're living so we can worry about all these people we got dying. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it.
I love that. So what is Simply Sober? Is it's a page or what is it?
Simply Sober it kind of became a thing in my head because I felt like I looked up the definition of sobriety, of sober, and it was keep abstaining from alcohol. And I was like, well, I just don't think that's true because I know heroin addicts might have a glass of wine, and you know what? That wasn't their thing. And they might have one twice a year, but guess what? I think they're still sober. So I simply think they're sober. I think they're simply fucking sober. And I just don't put that as like excuse my French, but that's what you know, like that's what I think. I think if you're not doing, if you're recovering from whatever was killing you, taking you away from your life, your family, and the things that you love, and the person that you knew when you looked in the mirror, I feel like that's what I feel.
You're simply sober. I really love that.
You know, and I just wanted to have a place where we could all come together and like celebrate each other and make some connections because this world's really tough and hard out there, man. Like we need to love each other where we can and build each other up where we can because connections are so important in being sober.
I agree. Speaking of that, I started a Zoom meetings on Mondays, and it's just called Freedom Fellowship, and it is the same. It's 8:00 Eastern on Zoom, and it is any form of recovery that you practice. And even if you're just trying to get sober, if you're not sober yet, you're invited.
Can you do me something? Can you stick that in, if you will, if after this, I'm gonna get that because I'd like for you to post that in the Simply Sober group.
I definitely will.
So that because then I know there's some more people that are interested in some more meetings, all recovery meetings. So yours will be on Monday. We're thinking about having ours on a Thursday. So that'd be cool.
I love it. Yes. And I will share it too. I love because I really enjoyed AA meetings and I still enjoy AA. I enjoy the 12 steps. But if I'm being honest, I did towards the end start to feel a little bit like it was not inclusive of everyone's recovery and maybe kind of pushed some people away. And that started to be hard for me. So I will never not love AA. I love the 12 steps. I do a lot of stuff with the 12 steps still, but I started to attend some meetings on Zoom, some different meetings, and I have fallen in love with just like letting people recover how they want to recover.
That's awesome. I mean, that's so cool that we're all like that. Isn't that funny that we both started like really hardcore with AA? Now kind of like that we're kind of aligning differently, you know. And that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm glad we see that. But yeah, I definitely see us, you know, definitely having more connections in the future.
Yes. Well, is there anything that you want to tell people before we go? Anything that you want people to remember, to know?
Yeah, don't give up hope ever. Don't ever give up hope. No matter how far down, no matter what you've done for that dope, what you've lost for that dope, what you put first, you know, what you put last for that dope, you can always come back.
As we conclude this powerful episode of Controlled Chaos, a recovery podcast, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every listener who has joined us on this journey of resilience and renewal. These stories are shared with the hope that someone out there struggling in the shadows of addiction may find a glimmer of hope and inspiration. If you're listening and in need of support on your own path to sobriety, please remember that you are not alone. Visit my website at www.controlledchaoscoaching.com and schedule a discovery call today. Together we can explore the possibilities of healing, growth, and a brighter future ahead. Thank you for being a part of this community, for your courage in facing your challenges, and for believing in the power of transformation. Remember, there's always hope, and help is within reach. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep moving forward on your journey to recovery. Love you mucho.